All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. We are live. It is Friday, January 23rd, as we are ending out the third week of January for 2026. Thank you all for being here. It is Friday, and we got a pump in the middle of the day. It was actually a pretty nice pump. And that pump has pretty much faded. Unfortunately, it looks like we are going to end out either red or flat on the day. Many names red, some of them flat after some pretty big moves. I mean, we're up 5-6% on some of these names, but they are starting to come down. It kind of feels like the rug was pulled at the very end of the day. S&P 500 got all the way to 691 at one point, 689.23 right there. Basically flat now on the day, 0.03%. You got Tesla that hit 452 back to 447. You got JP Morgan that's below 300. Meta actually held up relatively well, but this one's down from 667 now to 659. Redwire, good day, that's up 4%, but that's down from 1374. Pretty much everything took a little bit of a dip over the past, I would say, 45 minutes. Bloom Energy, that one went green, then that one went red, 1.74. Robinhood was touching 110. We do have a big update on Robinhood we'll talk about now. It's at 107. Intel obviously just decimated today, 44.96. It's back to prices it was at a week ago, but it's also back to prices that it was at a week ago. And a week ago, it was not up 17%. Today, it's down 17%. So those earnings, obviously not the best for Intel. 267 million shares have been traded for Intel today. Lots of money has been coming into the name. Micron at one point got to 410. That's right back down to 398. What has not lost its pump? Well, it's the thing that seemingly can't find a way to go down. Ladies and gentlemen, gold and silver keeping their momentum. Silver now 102. It's up 6.4%. Gold at 49.82. We have not seen 5,000 on gold yet. Maybe some people have seen it on different spot prices, but we're looking at 49.82. It looks like 5,000 inevitable. 102 for silver. Now, I didn't buy silver. I didn't buy gold. I did buy more COPEX today. Copper continues to be, I already have a position in copper. It wasn't the biggest position. I decided to add a bit more to it. I finally read a lot of my uncle's research that he's been sending me basically the past 2 weeks. And I'm starting to form my own conclusive thesis on copper. Obviously, everyone understands the argument for data centers, chips, etc. Saw this chart today that I thought was really important from Bloomberg. They expect copper demand to reach 40 million tons by 2040. Energy transition, data centers, chips, and robots will be the main drivers of demand. There's a further argument inside of this entire report that says there absolutely will be a shortage that's coming. The miners will not be able to mine fast enough, and that should increase more demand for copper. Copper has not taken off in the same way that silver and gold has, so I guess it is a bit of a catch-up play, but it also is a little bit of a different thesis. And so I bought some more COPEX today, which is just the copper ETF for the miners. But outside of that, didn't make any other crazy moves. And as you can see, the equity markets, as much as they get some momentum, they're good for traders that are getting in and out of positions. But if you're trying to have your Amazon finally break above 240 and hold it like it did 2 hours ago, right back down to 238.68, it's just not really able to hold on to a lot of these gains. S&P 500 right there, 689.20. Grab actually held some of the gains today, 460. So that's up 1.2%. That's up from 430 last week. Oscar, that was down on the day. IBKR was up a little bit. ServiceNow up a little bit. Some of the software names actually did get some love. Zeta got all the way to 2230. Then it came back down to 2161. But Adobe at 300. Salesforce, some of these names got a little bit of momentum. Intel right there at 45.13. AMD was at 264 last time I checked. 258. Good day. Up 2%, but it was pushing all-time highs, was not able to hold it. And then NVIDIA, even with that China news that they got the ability to sell their H200s finally to Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance, still, this stock only up 1.5%, was just not able to break above 190. Iran actually was up 10%. Did it hold? It's still up 8%. That's not too bad. Nebius got decimated, dude. I don't know what's the difference here or why Nebius is going so divergent from Iran, but Street likes Iran more than Nebius right now. Nebius 94.72. This one got all the way to 98. And Iran holding on to that 8% move. So, I mean, it is what it is. It was up nice during the middle of the day, and we are getting a little bit of retracement. I think all of us like this way better than the pain of 3 days ago when we saw a negative 2% on the S&P 500. So at least we're recovering from that based on the Greenland pivot, which is not the worst thing in the world. Let's look at a couple of different headlines, and then we'll keep going from there. Here's something I saw on silver that was just incredible for those that are playing silver. I mean, take a look at this. Shout out to Josh for this. The margin rate for one silver contract on Robinhood is now 57,000. The CME is in the 40s. So for folks who are just now trading futures, you can hold one of these contracts. You're essentially controlling 500,000 worth of physical silver per contract with 11x leverage on CME and 8x leverage on Robinhood. As you can see, 8.4x is your multiplier based on the margin requirement that's there. So there is a lot of money that is coming into silver, and it's coming in a pretty aggressive manner. And that money is not just coming through dollars in the SLV ETF. That money is also coming through leverage. And the scary part about this is, like, if the leverage requirements go this way, or there's a headline or this or that, like, is there a rotation out of silver? Like, I don't know. It's really hard to call the top, but man, it is impressive to kind of see how this is playing out. And it's incredible to see the amount of demand that's coming in. Silver right there, 102.48, up 6.5%. Gold at 49.80 on the day. Now, this headline I thought was really important as well. Ron B, which is Baron Capital's ETF, is now adding SpaceX, and it's 22% of the portfolio, which you can buy on any regular exchange. So for people that do want access to SpaceX, now 22% of Ron B. They have Tesla in there, XAI, a bunch of different stuff, Shopify, Spotify, Charles Schwab. They now have SpaceX. So you're seeing more momentum with Baron Capital as they are getting ready to take that public. There was a headline yesterday from the Financial Times that Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley are the front runners to take SpaceX officially public. And obviously that would be very good for Ron B as well. Would the rotation from commodities go into crypto? Historically, we have seen that happen. Thoughts? I think yes, theoretically that should happen. The problem is, and this is what I'm going to really spend some time this weekend trying to do a deep dive on this. It seems like we're in a commodity super cycle, which goes against the conventional argument of things that have happened in the past of a typical rotation. And that super cycle is fueled by a variety of different things. A lot of us know some of those basic arguments, but I want to go a bit more deeper this weekend and see what exactly is fueling that super cycle and how legitimate the claim is. There have been people that have been predicting this for a long time. In fact, I found a blog post today from 2 years ago. Daniel Gross, who wrote about AGI trades. This is right when NVIDIA was getting started. And one of his big trades was copper. And his argument on the blog was just like, if we are building out all these data centers, and what happens to internet broadband, we need broadband internet. We need more and more of these precious metals. So from that perspective, I don't know if we get that rotation. Also, I'm just skeptical on the rotation because it's like, what more does Bitcoin and Ethereum need? Like, the faith in the dollar feels like it's at an all-time low. USD, Dixie crashed today as well. I mean, I don't want to say crash, but it's down 1%, which is a pretty big move on the dollar index. And you're continuing to see a rotation out of the dollar, but it's not going into digital dollars. It's going into physical assets. The 10-year at least coming down a little bit, 4.231. So seeing that come down is good, but still relatively strong day. Tom Lee, he's on. Let's get his thoughts on what's going on in the broader markets.
Is it portend something that's going to come forward here for us?
Well, part of it is, of course, as you know, we're in earnings season and markets tend to be volatile around earnings. I'd say that some of the high-profile declines, like Intel, look bad over a one-day period, but Intel was $17 a year ago. So to me, it doesn't surprise me that you could see some of those stocks have done really well get punished a little bit on earnings.
I mean, this is a hard one to say it's representative of anything. I mean, the company's obviously been challenged. They have the government backstop in there, and the stock was up a ton going into the print. As we turn, speaking of the prints that matter next week, the mega caps, which you still love, but not quite as much.
I mean, we still like the Mag 7 and the mega caps because they're great earnings stories and they have a lot of visibility. But as you know, our top picks this year in terms of sector is energy and basic materials. But as far as earnings stories go, I think next week's critical because you got most of the Mag 7 reporting.
Tom, you're crushing that so far with that call. Energy and materials are the two top sectors.
Yeah.
Why were you leaning that direction as the year began?
We were betting a bit of mean reversion taking place in 2026. One of the things we identified in our 2026 outlook in early December was that energy and materials underperformed over the last 5 years at a level that in the last 50 years have marked turning points higher. So we were betting that so much of the bad news was baked in that they could have okay fundamental years, but the stocks could do really well.
I feel like you were on the right path as it pertains to small caps and the Russell just a little early
Yeah.
Which is fair. If you guys remember, Tom Lee was calling for IWM to 300 at the end of 2024. So he was a bit early on this, but we're seeing small caps massively outperform the S&P 500 this year.
I mean, remember, let's remind people, last year you told me up here that we were going to have a 50% gain in the Russell.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we didn't have that, but the Russell is almost outperforming everything else over the past year. And in 1 month, it's up 5%.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue?
Yeah. One of the things we talked about a lot about last year was that when small caps turn, it tends to be a multi-year. In fact, it could be up to a 12-year period. So the last turning point for small caps, and on a relative price to sales last year or price to book, they were at the exact same point they were in 2001. That was a launch point for 12 years of relative outperformance. So I think small caps benefit from a Fed turning dovish, possible M&A wave coming, an ISM turning back above 50, and then catching up to where EM, because EM did really well last year, but and small caps usually track that, it didn't.
Fed turning dovish, we have a meeting next week, in case you didn't know, and not expected to do anything. So maybe not as dovish as people thought several months ago. And by the way, as we look at prediction markets, as we think about who might be the next Fed chair, BlackRock's Rick Rieder is now the leading contender in prediction markets. There's Kalshi. We, of course, have a partnership with them. 52% leaning towards Rick Rieder. We shall see. Do you care how much you think about who the next might be?
I mean, it's important because it reflects the market. Market needs to respect who the new Fed chair is. Rick Rieder is somebody that markets really do respect. So, as you know, the Fed has to communicate not only with the White House, but also with the bond market. And I think Rick Rieder's experience in the markets world makes him very credible.
But you're not expecting anything next week, right?
I'm not, but I'm also expecting the Fed to reiterate that they are focused on no longer fighting inflation, but looking at the job market. That's a Fed put on the economy. To me, that's a dovish tilt. And as long as they're not fighting inflation, to me, that's a dovish Fed.
And that's why do you think the equal weight S&P is up 4% so far this year compared to the S&P, which is up 1%, and the NASDAQ, which is only up 1.5%?
Yeah, I think so. Because as you know, not only is the Fed no longer is trying to establish inflation credibility, which is hawkish, QT has ended, which to me is the same as a version of QE starting. So we are facing a dovish Fed. Even if there aren't cuts, it's still a Fed that wants the economy to do well.
I'm not sure everybody sees every appearance that you have, and people generally think you skew bullish, which you obviously do. That said, you're still looking for what you've said could be a bear market in the middle of the year. Do you want to explain one more time why, even in the midst of this bullishness we hear from you, you still think stocks could have a bit of a rocky road at some point?
Yeah, I think 2026 has the same contours as last year. So in 2026, I think there's a good fundamental earnings story, earnings growth accelerating. But we have two transitions to deal with. One is the Fed, a new Fed. The market always tests a new Fed. So from confirmation, let's say that starts in March, a new Fed happens, and then the market tests him. That's one source of a drawdown. The second is, of course, policy. The White House is much more deliberate this year in picking winners and losers, and there's some uncertainty around the tariffs. Last year, that was enough to drive a 20% decline in the S&P. So I think the combination of policy uncertainty along with Fed could create a drawdown that feels like a bear market, but that's from higher levels as well.
Did it make you?
I don't know, dude. The market testing Rick Rieder or Kevin Warsh plus Trump doing Liberation Day 2.0. First of all, I don't think the Fed new chair being tested is enough for a 20% drawdown. And then two, like Trump tried quote unquote Liberation Day 2.0 with this whole Greenland thing and then pivoted. So like, if those are the two arguments for a 20% drawdown, even from higher levels, like if we pump to like 7,500 and then we get a 20% drawdown, I would rather him say valuation is the concern, not that. That feels, I don't know. It's hard for me to conceptualize that, but maybe that's how it plays out. So we're gonna have to see. Ultimately, time will tell. It looks like we're gonna end out relatively flat on the S&P 500, but overall, small caps have been the core theme of the broader month. Tom has been sort of right on this core argument for the past couple of years. It's just he was a little early, and we're seeing a variety of small caps, even if they're not on the Russell, massively outperform even on days where we are red. And so next week we get into large caps. those large cap earnings maybe bring some money back into the Amazon and Nvidias of the world. And it will be a very important week along with the Fed FOMC decision as we end out January. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Friday, January 23rd, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. All right, we are done for the day. And we are done for the week. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. We have a bunch of different headlines that we are going to get into as we end out this Friday. But here it is. S&P 500 ends out at 689.13 on the day, literally up 16 cents. I mean, we went through all this up and down. 58 million shares traded this thing back and forth for us to be flat on the day. Iran up 8.4% on the day. Adobe was up a little bit on the day. Zeta up 0.35, down from 22. Micron, 412 to 399. I mean, there's a lot of people that bought this at 412 today, and they are going to have to DCA and officially accept that they now need to be a bit more long Micron if they were going for a trade, as this one took a hit. It's hard sometimes buying its momentum. Same thing that happened with Intel yesterday, 54 to 45. That one ended down 17%. I think this is the worst day for Intel in a couple of years. Robinhood 107. We'll talk about some of the headlines with Robinhood. Nvidia 187.68 with that China headline that ended up green on the day, 1.2%. Tesla ended basically at 450, 449 with autonomous now starting in Texas without a safety vehicle. The Qs were up about 0.32%. Redwire was up 4.3. Dude, Rocket Lab gold got all the way up to freaking 94, back down to 88. Incredibly volatile action across the board on some of the space names. ASTS, I think, got to 117. Wow, ended red. 113.57 on the day, got to 112 or 111 at one point as well. Yeah, worst day for Intel since August of 2024. So about a year and a half since this one took a bit of a hit. Right there, 280. Ironically, though, I was looking at the upgrades. Intel got upgraded to like $65 by like 7 different firms. So the analysts, I think one firm lowered their price targets like 40, but 7 other firms were like, yeah, we think demand is strong. They have to figure out their supply stuff. And then, this should be a $65 stock. But obviously the street was not happy with it today. Baidu, that was down a little bit on the day. Baba, that was down 2.4%. JD was down 0.5%. ARM was down 2.6%. Let me know in the chat what you bought or sold today. If you closed out any options, bought any options, sold any puts, bought back some puts. BMNR right there was down about 0.54% on the day. ETH, I think, fell just below 3,000. Yeah, 29.37. It was below 2,900 at one point. And then Bitcoin, 89.38. The reason SoFi fell is because JP Morgan and Bank of America, all the banks took a hit. I don't know why the banks are taking a hit. Like, honestly, I'm a little confused on why financials are getting hit, especially given how much M&A and IPO stuff we're seeing. But the banks took a hit, and that's why I think SoFi got hit. Nebius right there, 94.50. That was down. And then I think Palantir got to 172, back down to 169 on the day. Richard said he bought some Rocket Lab, bought some Zeta. Gonzo said I sold Grab, Intel, Oklo, buying Micron. Oh yeah, what was with the bank? A Capital One, right? That had higher credit loss provisions. But that wasn't indicative in the larger banks. Last week had great earnings, so I don't know if that has to affect JP Morgan, but that was an issue yesterday. Where did Capital One and COF? Wow, 7% down. By the way, that company they bought, that startup, Brex Financial, for $5.5 billion. We didn't all celebrate that yesterday, unless you're an early investor in that. But you would have to be pretty damn early. But we thought it was like a good acquisition. Turns out Brex raised at $12 billion in March of 2022. They got sold for $5 billion. So whoever invested in the last round got screwed. So that was a great acquisition for Capital One. They got a hell of a discount. But for the investors that put in money in 2022, they lost money, which kind of sucks. So, I mean, makes sense for Capital One, but ultimately wasn't a good exit for those early investors, or for at least the latest round of investors of Brex. AMD right there, that was up 2.35% on the day. Garrett said I bought Rocket Lab, Ion Production said I bought Hood and Meta. Krishna said I bought SoFi and sold covered calls on the Hood pump. Yeah, today was amazing at around like 2:30. If anyone sold calls, you were getting amazing premiums, and you're probably already up on a bunch of those calls. How was Quantum today? QBTS, this thing. Wow, Quantum got hit, down 6.4%. All right, so some of these small caps and smaller names getting hit a bit higher. IONQ as well was down 4%. VG, we'll talk about this one as well. $9.89, almost broke $10 at 1.3.7%. This one continued to have a decent day. APLD, this one was up 8.4%. That went the opposite of Nebius. CRML, that one was up 11%. And then how about MP and the rare earths? That was also up 2% on the day. UNH, one of the politicians, Kevin Hearn, sold his entire position. UNH went up though, 356. All right, so even with the politician selling, you got UNH to get a little bit more momentum. Again, S&P 500, 689 on the day. All right, so let's talk about a bunch of different headlines we have, and then we'll keep going from there. I think Steve will try to make it on the show today. Can't guarantee that, but if he hops on, then we'll talk to him. If not, then we'll still go through a bunch of these different headlines that we have. Okay, so first thing, just on VG real quick, I saw Roy post this chart that I thought made a lot of sense right here. So a cold winter in the EU in particular, with low inventories, creates record imports for natural gas, which is why LNG, which is why Europe's LNG imports could hit a new record in 2026 as per the IEA. This is really bullish VG, and I think this is why VG is actually held up in comparison to some of the other energy names. Obviously, that with the arbitration lawsuit, them winning was also a good thing. But I don't know. I'm thinking of averaging up on VG. I really am. I mean, stock's down still like 60% from IPO. I don't understand the fundamentals as well as some other people, but it is down a lot. And after the lawsuit overhang is over, which for the most part it's over, now it's just a question of, all right, how do you play LNG if you want to play it? Now, obviously, there's probably better energy plays. Bloom Energy has massively outperformed, et cetera. There's tons of different energy arguments that are out there, but I think this one might be a little easier to play with the valuation being a bit more reasonable. So we'll be doing more due diligence on that, but VG, that could be a tailwind for it. Again, gold and silver, for those that missed it, silver right there, 102.75, gold at 49.85. Absolutely incredible to see that momentum as that one continues to move higher. At what price mid? I would like to go back to $9. I don't know if we easily get it there. Oh, Dumb Money talked about today. I was on their show not on their show, but I was in their chat for a little bit. Then I had to leave. What was the new stock they talked about today? There's like a consumer retail stock that they're talking about, right? Does anyone know? Did anyone watch? I think it's in the retail space. I didn't get to stick around to hear the name. AS? What the hell is AS? Amer Sports. Do you guys know this thing? Amer Sports. American Sports? I've never heard of this before. Market cap is 20 billion. Price to sales of 3. It was up 3.4% today. Amer Sports, sports equipment company. So Camillo is seeing social arbitrage in sports equipment. I'm gonna have to listen to this podcast. Amer Sports. Oh, they own a bunch of brands that I know. It looks like this is a conglomerate of a variety of different brands. I wonder what he's seeing on TikTok that's getting him excited about. Have you never heard about it? I've honestly never heard about this. The ticker for VG is VG. Solomon Shoes. They own Solomon Shoes. Dude, I've never heard of Solomon Shoes. Solomon Shoes. What the hell is this? No, I've never seen these, bro. Ever. Is that a big thing? I've really never seen that. I know what Skechers are. I know Nikes. I know Adidas. I know Vans. Solomon Shoes. I've never heard of this. All right, so AS, I'll look into that. Let's see what Camillo sees in these ones. All right, a couple other charts that I want to show everybody. First of all, I thought this was pretty interesting. Remember when Macron wore those glasses when he was giving his speech? Apparently they were $775, and they're from a company called iVision Tech. Him wearing the glasses sent the stock up 70% over the past 3 days. I just thought that was interesting because this is why the capital markets are incredible. I mean, one moment can change the destiny of an entire company. And a lot of those executives are 70% richer as their stock is worth a lot more because Macron wore those. So I thought that was pretty interesting. This chart I thought was also very interesting. Gold now accounts for 25% of total world reserves, still below the USD as a percentage share, and it remains far below its share in the 70s and 80s when it was much higher. In other words, if the recent reasons for buying gold persist, it can keep rising. This is from Liz Young. I thought this was pretty damn incredible to see how gold is only 25% of total world reserves. Obviously, it's up a lot more since the 2020s. And it kind of goes to the argument about how central banks are continuing to allocate to this and kind of dumping U.S. Treasuries, not at the most aggressive space, but obviously in a way that's pushing those 10-year yields higher. And that's linked to more momentum. On top of that, take a look at this chart right here. This is from JP Morgan's quantitative research. Retail investors are piling into gold and silver funds at an accelerating pace. Individual investors posted a 95 million net inflow in the largest gold ETF, GLD, on Tuesday. This was the largest daily inflow since October 2025. By comparison, the largest daily inflows in 2025 were in October and April at about 150 million. So it's not at that exact peak that we saw last year, but it's the largest we've seen in the past couple months. Retail investors have net bought gold for almost every single day in 2026 via GLD. And as a result, retail net inflows are up to $370 million year to date on GLD. If we do a comparison with Bitcoin, so year to date, retail investors have put 370 million into GLD. Over the past 4 trading days, the Bitcoin ETFs have collectively lost 394 million, 479 million, and $708 million. Now, this is not just retail. This is also institutional volumes, but I'm sure the institutional volumes on GLD are probably strong as well. But it's like gold's getting 300 million and Bitcoin's losing 300 million in a day. Which, and again, you know, if retail was really interested in BTC, they'd be buying more IBIT. They're not. They're buying GLD, which, again, it's just incredible. Silver-linked ETF saw a record 922 million of retail inflows over the last 30 days. Almost $1 billion of retail inflows. So this retail momentum on gold and silver is not slowing down. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger. Is it a bubble? I don't think so, given all of the industrial use cases for this and the lack of trust in the dollar. Could it turn into a bubble quickly based on a variety of different things happening, like margin going up or some level of rotation or maybe just general economic anxiety? Yeah, maybe. But it is incredible. It really is incredible to see the type of momentum that we're seeing in gold and silver. Why is everyone saying that I should know what Solomon shoes are? Why, like, I can't be the only person here that has no idea what Solomon shoes are. Okay, they're hiking shoes. I don't go on hikes, but they're not gym shoes. Like, I know the basic gym brands. Solomon, I've really never heard of Solomon sneakers. What copper ETF are you in? COPX, COPX. I do think this could dip back down to like 82, 83, and that's your buy. I started buying this thing at freaking 56 and then I sold it at 65 and now I'm back in. But yeah, I think a dip to the low 80s would be good, but COPX is that ETF. Okay, apparently everyone knows. Ray says on my feet currently right now. Okay, everyone knows Solomon. They would have made your hike with Davis easier, dude. I'm actually wearing the sneakers because I just came back from the gym that I was wearing with dude, no one roast my sneakers, okay? These are my sneakers. Don't like these are my some basic ass Skechers, bro. This is what I wore on that hike, bro. I almost died 5 times because there's like zero traction. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I need to get better. Okay, I need to get better sneakers. I get it. Those are grandpa shoes. They're decent shoes, bro. They're not horrible. They're okay. But I legit almost died on those rocks, dude. Like, I'm happy I did it, but I could have used some freaking Solomon shoes. I did buy some Nike. I have some Nikes in my closet. I just haven't broke them in. I bought them in like September. I've just had these for so long that I've kept using these. The Nikes look a little better than these, but those are my sneakers. Okay, so that's what we have on gold and silver. Is that pretty much it? All right, this is the last of Tom Lee's segment, and then we'll move on to a couple different other headlines that we have.
Bitcoin. What's going on there? Risk on, it doesn't really do anything now. Risk off, it doesn't do anything either. What's it correlated to, if anything?
I think crypto has been suffering from deleveraging. You know, in October 10th, there was that one-time price shock that was the biggest deleveraging of crypto in history. And then this week, crypto was doing well until the Greenland announcement, which triggered the move in JGB yields and a deleveraging in crypto. So I think crypto, unfortunately, is sort of would track gold, but you have to subtract deleveraging. And I think that's really what's been hurting crypto.
I mean, people, these calls it, oh, it's the, the new reserve currency, break out the gong on that, that it's the new gold, break out the gong on that. I mean, have you rethought where you thought that this could go over a period of time? Because your targets on it were so unbelievably lofty, and now I question as to whether they could ever be reached.
Yeah, well, I think Davos was pretty eye-opening. Larry Fink talked about everything being tokenized onto a common blockchain. David Sachs talks about how once the Clarity Act's passed, digital assets and basically the architecture of Wall Street are going to merge. I think crypto is still really relevant as a settlement layer, but it is more a story of smart blockchains, which is more of an Ethereum story over Bitcoin. And as you know, Bitcoin maybe is getting dinged because there's some concerns about quantum being able to steal or capture a third of the Bitcoin legacy wallets. I don't think Bitcoin's story is broken. I think it is waiting for clarity, but institutional adoption's growing. So I still don't think $200,000 Bitcoin is that crazy. It is just a doubling in price. And think about where gold was and how silver's moved. Historically, those big parabolic moves in crypto follow parabolic moves in precious metals. So I don't think that this is a broken story unless it doesn't happen in the next couple of years.
Okay. Don't sound as though.
All right. That's what you got from Mr. Tom Lee. Again, it is just a little confusing because if he's calling for a 20% drawdown, Ethereum's going down the gutter. Unless Ethereum pumps 20% so that when it goes down 20% or 30%, whatever, it goes back to these prices. But he continues to believe long-term that ETH should be bullish. And so do I. It's like long-term, this thing should work out. It's just in the short term, it might be a little dead. And it might not be where the best alpha is right now. Ethereum right there, 29.40, Bitcoin 89.3. As that one continues to be red on the day. S&P 500 down a little bit more in the after hours. A couple of other different macro things to take a look at that I thought were interesting. First of all, Apple has now been down 7 weeks in a row. I think it ended up today, but down for the week. The last time this happened was 2023, January to start of 2023. So Apple stock has been in the gutter. They're going to have, Apple actually was red today. They're going to have the best Q4 they've had in almost 4 years with 12% revenue growth. So we should be expecting a really strong Q4, which is not going to happen next week. Next week, we have Microsoft, Tesla, and Meta. The week after that, we have Google, Amazon. Google's on February 4th, and then Amazon and Apple. So those are going to be really important earnings, but Apple has been in a bit of a swing. The other chart here that I thought was also important, we always talk about leverage in the United States and how much money is being used via FINRA, which is about 1.4 trillion. Well, the Chinese are also using a ton of margin. Margin financing in China is up to a record $390 billion. This has surpassed the 2015 stock market bubble peak in China of $380 billion. Margin debt has nearly doubled since the end of 2024, driven by risk appetite from retail investors. The same retail investors in China that have wanted to take a chance on NVIDIA and Palantir, Meta, Hood, et cetera. I mean, they're borrowing money to be able to take those risks. As a percentage of free float market cap, margin trading is up to 5%, nearly the highest since the 2015 crash in China. By comparison, this percentage hit just 9.5% in 2015 when it doubled in just a few months. So it's about 50% lower as a percentage of the free float market cap in China than it was in 2015, but it's significantly higher in terms of the absolute dollars of margin that is there. So you're seeing a lot of leverage enter into the system, whether it's American investors or Chinese investors, and people want to gain access to, I mean, if you can borrow at 4 or 5% and buy Bloom Energy and it goes up 50%, like you're going to do that. I mean, it's hard for people not to do that, especially if they're, managing big amounts of money. And I think that's what we're seeing right here as well. This also I thought was really interesting by Elon. So Sam from ARK said, how valuable will the biggest company be in 10 years? And our boy Elon said maybe as high as 100 trillion. Obviously, he's talking about Tesla, not NVIDIA. But it would be kind of crazy if Tesla does get to $100 trillion. NASDAQ files to remove trading restrictions on Bitcoin and crypto ETFs. Okay, cool. That should be good for more of these crypto ETFs getting more momentum. Yes, Apple is on Thursday next week as well. So those earnings. Oh, is it next week? Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay, so next week's going to be important as we have 4 of the big ones that will be reporting. We bring up a couple of other things, and then we got Dan Niles that we can listen to as well. I thought there's no money in 10 years. Yeah, there might not be money in 10 years. By the way, this is the Palantir Ontology hoodie. Just came in the mail today. So this is the Sham Sanker purple version of the Ontology hoodie. And it's very comfortable. I have the black one already. The purple one is very nice as well. Tesla's down 7% this month. Yeah, Tesla is basically down to flat year to date. It has not moved much this year, but it started the year relatively high from those November levels. And you're starting to see this one start to come down. By the way, let's get an update real quick on that winter storm, because this is also something that is going to affect all of us. And I mean, at least in the States, it continues to be something that was part of the reason I think the data center stocks got a little bit of a bid, except Nebius, is because the DOE, Department of Energy, came out and said, we will use excess capacity from the data centers to secure the grid if things get really bad with snowstorm.
Active event here, the biggest winter storm the central, southern, and eastern U.S. has faced in several years. 200 million of us are going to be affected by this. Travel shut down east of the Rockies into early next week. And one of the big aspects of this storm that will have a lot of implications for life as cold air sets in, we're going to have major freezing rain problems across the south and into the southeast, up into the mid-Atlantic states as well as we move through the next several days. It begins in Dallas this evening and tonight with some rain changing to freezing rain, then sleet, but big-time problems into Atlanta, Charlotte, into the end of the weekend. Heavy snow on the north side. As you mentioned, we're going to be dealing with a hard-hit areas, especially near and west of I-95, hit especially hard. But regarding the ice, here we have that sleet and freezing rain combination that's going to be a very dangerous thing, especially with power outages that will likely follow. Near record and record-breaking cold on Sunday. And if you don't have electricity, that's a bad thing there into Texas. We'll see some near record lows into the Carolinas following that into Monday and Tuesday. And the snowy side, widespread 6 to 12 inches of snow across much of the southern plains. And then look at this. We're going to zoom into the northeast here in the darker blue zone, 12 to 18 inches into areas near I-81. There's potential that New York City could even see double digits if we don't see any sleet mix in on the backside. Scott?
It's pretty incredible, dude. And I mean, they're really hyping this thing up to be the worst storm we've had in like 50 years. I didn't even know about it till this morning. Like, did anyone see any news coverage over the past couple of days? I had no idea we were having some massive, horrible winter storm. But apparently that's happening now. By the way, you know the number one job I wanted for like a couple of years when I was younger? I think I was like 10 years old. Maybe before I was 10 years old. I learned what the word meteorologist meant. And I thought it was the cool, going back to the word of the day, I thought it was the coolest word ever. I was like, I want to be a meteorologist. I don't think I actually wanted to tell the weather to people. I just thought it was cool to say I'm a meteorologist. I feel like this was like in 4th grade or something. I learned what the word meant. Not a weatherman, a meteorologist. And now, I mean, we definitely talk about the news all day. We don't talk about the weather that much. But I don't know what the stock market version of a meteorologist is. We need a cool name for a stock market meteorologist. The weather of the market. You'd be a weather boy, not a weatherman. Okay, that's disrespectful. But UPS driver. Oh my God. I really thought that word was. And then I learned what the word astronaut. I was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I just thought that word was so cool. I did not want to actually go into space, but I thought it was really cool. Stocktologist. Market analyst. Yeah, I guess so. That's the name for your podcast, Stocktologist. Dude, we still don't have a name yet. Steve called me this morning. What did he call me this morning? I just got out of the shower and he was like, what was his name he suggested in the morning? Oh man, I can't remember. If I liked it, I would have remembered. But he texted me, he's like, call me. I got it. I have the name. I can't remember because he didn't text it to me. But he said something and I was like, Steve, It's not it, man. That's not it. I'm sorry. That's not it. If he joins the show later, I'll ask him what it was again, but I don't like it. Dan Alves, let's see what he's got to say about the markets and going into big tech next week.
Everybody's concerned about memory prices and what that does to forward margins. But I think services, will be surprisingly good, and that has very strong margins. And so you may get a bit of an offset there. I think the quarter's fine. People are nervous, obviously, about the guidance. But the real thing is, if you think about this entire year and where Apple's come from, they're arguably two years late on AI, and you haven't had a really good phone in a while. And you're finally going to get a foldable iPhone at the end of this year, and it's going to be having an AI-enabled Siri. And if you look at the past, when you had the iPhone 6, for example, and you moved from a 4-inch screen to a 5.5-inch screen, revenues went from growing 7% in fiscal 14 to 28% in fiscal 15. And don't forget, Samsung's had a foldable phone since 2019. So Apple, as usual, is pretty late, but that's what I think drives, actually, for the first time in a long time, a pretty solid upgrade cycle.
Is it a certainty in your view that Apple's margins get impacted by the high price of memory? I mean, we see the memory stocks screaming higher, basically, every day, it seems. Yes. So is that a foregone conclusion that those who consume those memory chips that need them will pass that cost on? Yeah,
I mean, Apple's going to get affected, but remember, Apple's buyers are also wealthier buyers. And so Apple will try to pass those costs forward. And so I'm sure the gross margins, operating margins will have a little bit of downward pressure, but that's why the stock's where it is. I think if you're thinking about the entire year, what you should be getting excited about is I may actually have a good product that I can buy relative to the Android ecosystem for the first time since AI came out, and arguably before that. And so that's what makes Apple, I think, interesting for the year. And I think when they give the guidance, I think the quarter is going to be actually a very strong quarter, but I think when they give the guidance, that'll kind of clear the decks for people to start thinking about the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think Apple's going to have a really good quarter. Let's put in the chat if people actually, we should do this for all the big tech companies and do a little bit of a preview of what people think. But I mean, Apple pump or dump, it's tough because they still trade at a hefty premium, but they're going to have one of the best quarters they have in history. Let's do that, then we'll do the other ones. Apple next week, pump or dump. What do we think? It went from UPS to Best Buy to Taco Bell worker. We're just, every time I wear something new, we're going to find the color it matches with. And that's what I'm going to turn into. I'm wearing my Vision Pro, so they'll pump. Does anyone use the Vision Pro anymore? Like, that one as well has just not been the one that's worked. Amazon, again, is laying off those, or Reuters is saying 30,000 corporate jobs. I'm trying to confirm the headline on that, but it does look like multiple sources are saying Amazon will be announcing layoffs pretty soon next week. That is in the corporate sector, potentially due also to advances of AI, but it's not officially confirmed yet by Amazon themselves. 14,000 jobs. Oh yeah, because last time was 15,000, right? So 15 plus 15 would be 30. But we have to see. Let me see if there is the headline right here on this Amazon thing.
This new version of the app works. Scott?
All right, Julia, thanks very much for that. Kay Rooney, what's up with these Amazon cuts we're hearing about?
Yeah, Scott. So what we're hearing is that Amazon is now planning a second round of job cuts next week. This is according to a source familiar with those plans, or Annie Palmer over at CNBC.com with this great reporting. It does mark a continuation of job reductions that started back in October. Amazon then cut roughly 14,000 positions. At the time, CEO Andy Jassy told employees it was an effort, he said, to stay nimble. Amazon has been right-sizing after growing pretty rapidly during the pandemic. There are some questions over how much of this is the result of automation and things like AI. Jassy, back in October, did point in a letter to employees to AI. He said they need to be organized, quote, more leanly. And then Reuters was the first to report some of this news. It does represent about 10% of Amazon's corporate workforce. AWS and stores, we're hearing, are among the units expected to be impacted. Reuters reporting that Prime Video is also going to be hit. We have not confirmed that. Amazon did decline to comment, Scott.
All right, Kate.
All right, so next week, that's going to be important. Jassy again said a couple months ago that it wasn't because of AI. I don't believe him, but he's saying we need to get rid of some of the glut. I mean, maybe. But if some of these roles that got fired can be automated, that might be the broader incentive right there. VG 998 after hours, that is up another 1%. I think those are some of the main headlines. We'll see if we missed anything else, but that's how we closed out the markets. I mean, this week was defined by the Greenland thing after Trump announced it on Saturday, and then 2 days ago, that was it. We were done. Trump did tweet about Canada. He said, first of all, yesterday he disinvited Canada from being part of the new Board of Peace. Today he said Canada's against the Golden Dome being built over Greenland, even though the Golden Dome would protect Canada. Instead, they voted in favor of doing business with China, who will eat them up within the first year. So once again, Trump arguing about what the Canadians are choosing to do. Dissent said Alberta should separate from Canada today. I mean, some of them are just saying some pretty aggressive things, but they are taking shots at the Canadian administration. And, you know, Mark Carney said some stuff as well this week. Enphase announced plans to reduce its workforce by approximately 160 employees, affecting less than 6% of total staff. This one, I think, held its pump towards the end of the day. Enphase, no, it didn't. 42 to 39. All right, ended down 2. Still up a good chunk for the week, but ended up getting hit at the top there. What do you think about ticker pulse or sense and volatility? I don't like them. I feel so bad every time you guys recommend a name and I'm like, that's not it. But genuinely, like, I am looking for a name that is all encompassing of a broader brand. And I don't know, ticker pulse, like, it's not always going to be about the stock market. It's not always going to focus on just the ticker. Like, the first episode has honestly not much to do with the stock market. The first episode is about the life story of someone who's very important in financial markets and media and the overall stock market. And we talk a little bit about the markets, but like the first episode wouldn't even fit under the concept of ticker pulse. You gotta think this weekend, figure this out. What about express delivery? Oh my gosh, dude. I don't know. Maybe that's the name. Admit you got to do this to yourself. It's like naming a kid. It is like naming a kid, to be honest. Dude, if I can't name this podcast, what the heck am I going to name my kid one day? That's a big deal. You know, have I told this story publicly? I'm pretty sure I've told this story publicly about how I got my name. Do you guys know this story? Put it in the chat. Have I told you guys the story? It's a hell of a story. Like, I shouldn't be called Amit right now. My name should not be Amit. I'm very thankful that it's Amit, but it honestly shouldn't be Amit. I'm sure I've told this before. No. You're going to name your kid Palantir? Okay. I'm going to make it very short, but basically in Indian culture, I don't think this is true anymore, but like back in the 90s, this was like the culture, or maybe my family just bought into the culture or whatever. But the grandma picks the name for the boy, the firstborn boy, not the mom, the dad's mom. Some of my Indians in the chat might relate to it. Like, so my grandma picked my name, Amit, not my mom. Now, that's kind of crazy, right? Because my grandma didn't give birth to me. My mom did. You would think my mom should have a little bit of input in this name, but she didn't. She was not allowed to have input into this name. Some weird Indian shit. I know. It's like, I don't think my mom would want to name my kid one day, but like the point is, this is what would happen, right? My mom has never called me Amit a day in my life. Let me say that again. My mom has, I have never heard her utter Amit in my life. She calls me every day what she wants to call me, which is what she wanted to put on my birth certificate, which is not Amit. She has never wanted to call me Amit. She hates that name. And that's why she's never called me. The name that she's wanted to name me on my birth certificate. We can go to Google Docs and write this shit out. She wanted to name me. This is what she still calls me every single day. Buthik. Pathik. Buthik. My name was going to be Buthik Kukraja. Now, my initials will be PK, not AK. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Buthik sounds like butt dick, okay? That's what it sounds like. When you really say it fast, I am just so grateful to my grandmother for using this century-old Indian rule and imposing it on our family. Because if she did not, my name on my birth certificate, all of you guys would be calling me Buthik or Pathic or however you want to say this. And I'm sure growing up with the types of kids I grew up with in middle school and high school, there would have been a little bit more heavier roasts in the lunch table. So pathetic. Yeah. Like there's a lot of ways that name wouldn't have worked out. So, my grandma and my mom didn't have the best relationship, but my grandma won that battle. And in that battle, she said, nope, his name is Amit. And honestly, I feel like I'm an Amit. Now, with my mom, if she called me Amit, that'd be very weird. For my mom, I'm a Buthik. But for the rest of the world, I feel like I'm an Amit. Amit means infinite in Hindi. Buthik means traveler. So that's what she wanted to name me. And it ended up being named Amit. Could you imagine, bro? My name Buthik Cook. I don't. Obviously, hindsight now, 28 years later, but that wouldn't have worked. That just wouldn't have worked. So, infinite yapper. Yeah, exactly. Infinite traveling yapper. But that's how my name became Amit. Steve, welcome to the market close.
The market is closed. That is true.
Okay, so before we get started with our analysis, you're in the car, right?
I am in the car, and if I wasn't at a light, I would honk.
When you called me this morning, what were the two names that you had so much confidence in that you suggested to the audience or to me? Do you remember them?
Breaking Eggs and what was the other one?
Okay, so the first one for everybody was Breaking Eggs. That's what he wanted to name the show. I get out of the shower. I'm on the phone with him, and I'm like, I think I literally didn't say anything for 30 seconds. I was like,
Sink or Swim. Sink or Swim was the one I wanted to call it.
And then Sink or Swim. So those were his call me Amit at 8:30 a.m. ideas that he was so sure of. Breaking Eggs and Sink or Swim.
I still think Sink or Swim is good.
I think both are just not good.
Okay.
Just not good. It's nothing personal. I've had some bad names too, but
listen, we're gonna have to go with something, otherwise it's gonna be the Nothing Podcast, which may end up being better than everything we've thought of. The Nothing Podcast.
Dude, we just need to call it the Amit and Steve show.
Why is it called Nothing? Because we couldn't fucking figure anything out. That's why. So it's just nothing. I mean, think about it. If Patty McCormick can get away with a Substack called Not Boring, why can't we get away with a podcast or YouTube show called The Nothing Show?
He takes a VC angle towards it though. There's a different,
Dude, what what is going on? There's a goddamn protest on First Avenue. I will drive right through you.
What are they protesting?
I don't fucking know.
Wait, can we try to hear them? What are they protesting? Don't right now. Stop. What are they saying? Does anyone know what they're saying?
I don't know. They're fucking protesting the UN.
Does anyone get what they're saying? What are they saying?
I don't understand what the fuck they're saying. It's fucking 35 degrees out. It is a wind tunnel on First Avenue, and they're chanting at the UN, and there's nobody at the UN. Everybody's in Davos. I guess they didn't get the memo.
So it's creating more traffic. Are you stuck because of the protest?
No, but they started walking in the road waving flags.
Okay. Well,
I don't play around with that.
New York City, baby. They have the right to protest.
They have the right to protest, but don't get in front of my car and stop me from driving.
See, but you can't run them over. That's where
who said anything about running them over?
I'm not saying you would. I'm just saying that's the the tough part about protesting when it's cars. It's like no one's gonna actually run them over, right? So you're kind of just stuck there.
No, but I'll be getting out of the car. Anyway, the Nothing Podcast. What are you thinking?
We'll think of a name, dude. We'll figure it out.
Well, we got 8 days. Actually, 7.5 at this point.
I think we'll figure it out by Sunday night. I think we will.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Gourmet Plaza?
No.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
New York Grill and Deli?
You're just reading what's next to you at this point.
I am reading the signs on the stores I'm driving past.
Did you even pay attention to the markets today? Can I even ask you any questions about the
I paid a little bit of attention, but I was out doing things. I had meetings. I had to go get Patsy's. I had to get the private room. I had to go to the bank. I gotta tell you, ChatGPT led me wrong. I thought these things were going to be light. Thank God I brought a couple of bags with me.
Oh, you got the silver. You got the coins.
That's what I freaking sent you a picture of.
Oh, that's what you sent. I didn't. Oh, I thought it was something else. Wow. Okay.
That shit was heavy walking through the city with it. Thank God I only had to walk a block and a half.
Silver's at $102 an ounce now, right?
Yes, I did see that.
103. If you actually find a decent chunk of silver in these coins, I mean, you're gonna make some good money. For those that don't know, Steve got a bunch of $1,000 of quarters, and he's gonna try to see if he can find the 1964 ones for silver. Which would be pretty cool, but I don't know if he'll actually be able to find them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to find anything, to be honest with you.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see you try.
We'll see.
Okay, so small caps are up 5% for the month. S&P is basically flat. Large caps got a little bit of love today with Meta and NVIDIA. NVIDIA can now sell to China. They kind of faded towards the end of the day. We have big tech earnings next week. I kind of wanted to just ask you some questions about big tech as we get into next week. In general, do you think big tech will try to get the money that's been going into small caps to rotate back into the large caps?
I think big tech is going to do very well next week.
Okay, and is that based on sentiment? Is that based on earnings projections, or is that more based on their AI ROI?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's based on several things. You're getting good earnings already, and rates are coming down. The big thing I think is going to be these companies are going to blow numbers out of the water. There was no data from consumer sentiment to GDP growth to anything to indicate Q4 was slow. So we can assume Q4 was very good. And if Q4 was very good, then big tech should have very good earnings. And if they come out with big CapEx numbers for this year, then it should lift a lot of ancillary companies and take the market higher.
Okay, so first let me ask you this question. I put in the chat, Apple, based on you've held Apple for like years, what does your gut tell you? Does that thing go higher?
I mean, it's Apple. Right? It should go higher with the market. I just don't think it's exciting anymore. I mean, the reality is that it's not nearly as cheap as Microsoft or Meta right now. And I think that those companies are just better opportunities. That doesn't mean that Apple won't go up. I mean, there's never really been a situation where Apple doesn't do well. It may not do as well as the other ones, but I think it's a market perform at this point.
52% of the chat thinks Apple's pumped, so it's pretty 50-50 on the pump or dump. They will have the best earnings growth they've had and revenue growth in like 4 years. So I think that should be a reason they're bullish. They are down pretty heavily for the year. The other ones, I'm going to put a poll right here. Which one does the best post earnings? I think I know your answer, but maybe I don't. Microsoft, Meta, or Tesla? Which one do you think has the best percentage?
Meta. I think it's Meta.
So I knew you were going to say that. Why?
Because it's down, and I know people disagree with me with that, and it's fine. It immediately got taken down because of the headline gap loss. It stayed down because of what Zuck said on the earnings call. That was a one-time charge. It is not showing back up in these numbers. And since it's not going to show back up in the numbers when they report, they're going to report over $8 a share in 3 months of EPS. And Zuck is likely blowing the earnings out of the water because he knows he has to. And they're not going to make the same mistake twice. He's going to say something about the spend and why they have to spend the money and what they're going to do with it. I don't think he's going to be as vague. And if we get a Zuck that's not as vague and with strong earnings and strong guidance, this thing is one of the cheapest stocks in the Mag 7, if not the cheapest stock in the Mag 7. This should pump. They are doing over $100 billion in operating income. I'm sorry, cash from operations. There's not many companies that can do that. There's like 4 or 5 companies that generate more than $100 billion operating in cash from operations. So this is just a name.
If you had to steelman Meta going back to like 550, like a horrendous quarter, what do you think would happen for that to happen?
Listen, they need to miss earnings. If they miss earnings, and if Zuck is wishy-washy on the call, it can go 500. Because the market narrative will be that this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's just burning shareholder money and forget whatever he did in the past. He's a detriment. I mean, that will be the narrative if he's wishy-washy on the call.
Okay, Microsoft been in a slump the past 5 months. Do you think this one pumps or dumps on?
I think it pumps. Because I think the numbers are going to be very good for it. It's got the most sticky ecosystem out of the entire Mag 7. And I think that this is tied to people thinking OpenAI is a dud. I think that's truly what's bringing it down right now.
I think there should be a re-rating on Microsoft pretty easily, even easier than Meta, to be honest, just given how depressed it's been. But Meta's multiple is so much more attractive.
I mean, you look at Microsoft's margins, their margins are incredible. You look at the profitability, you look at the forward earnings, this is something that's incredibly cheap. I'm sorry, it's got a stickier environment than freaking Walmart and Costco. It just does. I mean, Matt and I talked about it live. Not a single person that he does business with outside of his company sends him anything from Google Docs. Yeah. Not a single person that I do business with sends me anything in Google Docs. Everything is a Microsoft environment document other than a PDF. Now, when you combine Microsoft's Azure, you combine M365, M365 has moved to a per license, per seat unit of economics. You have E0, E1, E3, E5, E7 licenses. The higher the number, the higher the price, you get more features. They also have upgraded Teams features. I'm getting 70 to 80% of the meetings outside my company that get sent in are from Microsoft Teams. They dominate the market. Matt said the same thing. They then have the revolving door with LinkedIn revenue that's embedded to Office, and HR departments are absolutely entrenched in LinkedIn. You have Dynamics, you have Power BI, you have the video game aspect, and if you actually look at who controls the operating systems, Microsoft Windows is still the #1 operating system, and every computer sold, they're making money. So,
you know, the one fear I have about Microsoft is they don't have a moonshot. Like,
no, they don't. They don't.
Like Google has Waymo, Apptronic, Tesla has Optimus, etc. Like Microsoft really, outside of the cloud business, which is like their core driver of growth,
their moonshot is OpenAI if it goes boom, which isn't really a moonshot because of how much it's already valued.
Yeah.
But it's just a steady compounder with capital. I mean, they're already returning, I think, $45 billion a year, $48 billion a year in cash to shareholders through buybacks and the dividends. They have over $100 billion in cash on the balance sheet. They're doing over $100 billion in, I think they're doing 100, and you can look it up here in front of a computer. I think it's like $152 billion in EBITDA a year. It's insane.
Yeah, $165 billion. If you had, here's a question for the chat as well. Microsoft's obviously the largest, basically, SaaS company that's out there. If you had a pick of what SaaS they could buy, do you have a name that's out there?
For Microsoft to buy?
Yeah, they bought it was GitHub, right? GitHub was the last, I think, big one that they bought. Datadog, GitLab, Zscaler. Like, is there any name out there that you think they could? Activision Blizzard was the last biggest acquisition.
Activision Blizzard was the last big acquisition. I would say that at this point, to stay within their ecosystem, it would need to be something for Microsoft Dynamics, because they're trying to make a run on Workday, Oracle, and SAP.
Yes.
And a lot of people do like Dynamics now. The more people I talk to, the more people are very interested in it. I mean, I saw a very early demo of it, I'd say 2018, because that's when we were looking at everything. And I would think it's got to be something to make Dynamics better, because that's where they see the next layer of growth being.
What is your take on the death of SaaS? Like, do you think the big tech companies implement AI and commoditize Salesforce? Do you think the platforms are too sticky? How are you thinking of those names?
So I can tell you that we will not be getting rid of Salesforce. I can tell you that my opinion is most companies will not be getting rid of Salesforce. There's just, companies are too dependent on it. And I think people are overestimating how quickly AI adoption is going to work and what AI adoption in those environments is going to do. Like, people are making it seem like these companies are going to die off in a week. That's not the case. And I'm willing to bet that when Benioff announces the numbers in Q4, the Q4 numbers are big. The year-over-year numbers are bigger than last year's. And the guidance for next year is going to be bigger than this year. I mean, dying companies do not grow revenue. Salesforce is growing revenue. I think that people are mistaken on this. People can say death to SaaS all they want. Until companies actually get rid of these platforms, there's no death to SaaS in sight. And all the people screaming this, they're not the decision makers that actually make the decision if the corporate budget for IT will include SaaS or not.
Dude, I don't know why my phone is not on Do Not Disturb. Why I'm getting a phone call every time I'm live. But
It's a new update they put out.
I don't know, dude. It's like I've always been on Do Not Disturb, and like now every day it's the death of SaaS thing is stupid. I agree. Like, these cash flows, I was looking at some of Adobe's numbers. It is ridiculous to say these companies are dead compared to the other stuff that's running up. It's just so narrative driven. The problem is the opportunity cost argument. So I wonder what a Salesforce has to do to be like, screw your narrative. We are obviously undervalued. And it can't be revenue growth because they're too big. So I
did you look at Salesforce's last quarter by any chance?
I mean, I remember covering it a little bit.
If you pull up the earnings call and you just throw it into ChatGPT to ask it for the AI metrics, because I don't remember them off the top of my head, Agentforce and Data 360, they're getting very big. These companies are not sitting outside of AI. They're implementing it. There's a lot of deals that they're getting. A lot of their customers are implementing it within those systems. What's more likely to happen, at least for Salesforce, I can't speak about Adobe because I don't really know it that well, but with the Salesforce environment, they're going to make it where you need less people to run it. Not the other way around where AI is going to cannibalize it. You're just going to need less people in your department to manage it.
Yeah, and why can't these SaaS companies just integrate AI? Now, I know they haven't done it in the best way, like in Adobe, which is why the stock is down, but AI shouldn't kill the business. It should make it better.
I know that you've never said this, but people that I know have said this, that Palantir is going to fucking take out Adobe. I misspoke. Take out Salesforce, and they're also going to make a consumer-facing ERP. People are convinced about this. Now, whether they do or don't, different story. The reality is they don't have those products today. If they're working on them, I don't know. But it would be silly to make a bet against it based on something that nobody has knowledge about. Like, there's no accurate information about the death of SaaS.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the foundation model companies like Anthropic, if they're going after Salesforce's lunch, I mean, sure, but they've got a lot of work to do before they steal those enterprise clients.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. And this is where I get a little annoyed because I work in the space, okay? Do you know how hard it is to get a company to actually agree to switch software when they're embedded on it?
I would imagine it's not easy.
It's not freaking easy. It's not easy. No, one, out of fear. Two, you have to remember, that's career-ending shit if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's not as easy, and this is one of the things that I get annoyed with the market. Like, people who commentate on the market and look at things as investors, they're looking at the next shiny thing and aspirations of how big it can be because they're trying to make money and get a 2, 3, 4x. The reality is that they're not looking at the other side of the coin where companies are probably not as likely to implement something new that's doesn't have a winning or a long-ended historical track record because it's career suicide if they get it wrong. Not is it just career suicide for them, it's career suicide for the C-suite, depending on how big of a flop it is, because that would be detrimental to the actual underlying numbers. These are not easy decisions to make. They also have to go through a very big RFP process, and knowing what it takes to actually run a full-scale implementation on these big software companies. I mean, our ERP system took over a year to implement.
Well, it's why these SaaS companies got a multiple in the first place, because it's such sticky revenue that once you're locked in, you're in. You can upsell, and that's why they've been good bets over the past 10 years.
Look, regardless if you're on Oracle, whether you're on Workday, or whether you're on SAP, to switch from one to the other is a nightmare. You're talking about, and people who have not worked at large companies, I don't think they would quite understand the inner workings of it. But if you have a company of 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, all of your HR records, all of your annual evaluations, your training department, all your trainings, all your finance, accounts receivable, accounts payable, budgets, forecasting. I mean, every little piece of data and everything that you do with all your business processes are all inside one of those platforms. Before 10 years ago, companies had 8 different platforms to do all this. Now with these sophisticated ERP systems, and they still have HCM, which is human capital management, which is just the human resource side. Companies like ADP have it, companies like Paycom, they're very big, but the ERP includes the finance, and it's a all-encompassing thing. It includes procurement. It includes everything for the back office. And to think that, because you got to include those in SaaS also, it's not just Salesforce. So you're telling me that AI is going to get rid of Workday, SAP, and Oracle? It's bullshit. It's not happening. And unless you work in corporate America in the back end, people wouldn't even think about what goes on the back end to run a company.
It's a fair point. It's a very fair point. Before we talk about Tesla, I did want to share this with everybody. Forgot to mention this. Robinhood is now going to pay high yield interest on cash sitting in options collateral. So this is a big deal. For example, let's say you sell a put on Nebius and you have $9,400 at a 94 strike sitting in collateral for the next week. You can't get any yield off that like you would if you had cash sitting in a regular high yield savings account. Schwab offered this, Fidelity offered this. Robinhood never offered it. Now they're giving you 3%, 3.25% if you have gold on your tied up collateral. So I think this could actually be a really good tiebreaker for a lot of big accounts that have been using Schwab and Fidelity to sell, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of options, because that yield you're getting is a big deal. Like if you're yield farming the stock and the cash is just sitting there, then being able to get a yield on the cash itself is pretty important. So
are they going to give you the yield on putting margin up?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Imagine if they did.
The Schwab guys, if you go on margin to sell a put, does Schwab give you yield on that margin while it's tied up in the put? It's not your money, right? So
It's not your money, but it would be hilarious if they did.
Yeah, there's no way they do that. That doesn't make sense to me. They do? Yeah, one person says yes, the other person says no. But Schwab does something cool. They only, or at least someone I know who has Schwab, only gets 20% of their, like if you had 10,000, only 20% of that would need to be collateral, even if you have to put up 10,000 for a cash card put. So I mean, the other brokers are just way more advanced for option sellers, and it looks like Robinhood's trying to do that now. Okay, Tesla. Do you think this one pumps or dumps next week?
I don't think the numbers are going to be good, but that's just me.
But okay, so does it pump or dump?
I think it's going to dump. Unless
Why are you
he comes
so
out.
bearish?
Listen, it's the same story as last quarter. The earnings don't matter. What matters is what Elon says on the call. It's about the narrative going forward. The numbers don't matter. He can miss earnings by 10%. It's not going to matter. All that matters is the earnings call.
I'll do a poll in the chat. But you don't think he's going to pump it on the like, dude? He just said you know what he said today? He said Tesla can become a $100 trillion company.
I mean, yeah. And how realistic is that?
I mean, if he's controlling all the robots,
do me a favor. Google what the U.S. freaking GDP is for the year.
U.S. GDP total. Okay, he's talking about 3x the total U.S. GDP.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't want to say the number.
But if he prints billions of robots a year, I mean,
sure. If that's a big if.
So do you think there's anything around energy storage or Optimus updates, or do you think the numbers are just going to be so bad that it's not going to matter?
He needs to put out the most bullish fucking story with Optimus there is.
I agree. And he's been trying for the past couple of years, but they haven't really shown
anything. And the
anything.
stock will pump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to imagine people are not going to take him seriously with Optimus, considering the guy beat Ford and GM at their own game with manufacturing cars. You're telling me that this guy can't manufacture robots? He just needs the robot hands and the software to be good enough for these to be deployed mainstream. Once that happens, he can have robots built in the factories. I'm not naive. I understand what the big picture is. The question is, when does the big picture actually start to be shown in the numbers? That's the big thing that he needs to get in front
of. Chat says 55% dump, 45% pump.
Remember, there's no more credits for the cars. I just think the cars number is not going to be good. And if the cars number isn't good, I don't think the earnings are going to be impressive. So it's more about the story around Optimus.
Okay, I'm going to give you some other names we have for earnings. You can give me your quick 30-second thesis if you have one, and then a pump or dump. Next week, Starbucks. In the chat, you can say it as well.
I mean, I've been buying so much that it'll pump.
Okay, Steve says
I mean,
Starbucks.
I go there every morning.
SoFi.
Pump.
Verizon.
They're going to crush earnings. SoFi's going to crush earnings. And I think it's going to be big guidance. And I think Noto's going to give a several-year outlook. And I think the street's going to eat it up.
What if they sandbag 2026 guidance, though, like they always do?
If he sandbags 2026 guidance, this is going under 20.
Yeah, I hope they don't do it that badly.
And he's not going to, because guess what? He has until the end of March to get the stock over 35. Yeah. Because he has to have 90 days of an average share price for his PSUs. He's got 2 more tranches. He has to get at least to 35 to get the next tranche. Unless somebody's going to try to convince me he doesn't care about that. It's a pretty big number, even for him.
Verizon.
I think it's too cheap where it is. I don't think people care about the space. I think they got to play up the Frontier acquisition and how accretive it's going to be. I think it should pump only because, now when I say pump, I'm talking about going to 45, not a real pump. But in a lower rate environment where the risk-free rate of return is going sub 3% this year, I mean, I would think that a great company like Verizon that's giving you a 7% yield is going to attract income and value investors.
IBM.
Dump. I think it's run so far. I don't know what else they can get off the bone at this point.
UNH.
I don't know enough about them. Pass.
Before we continue, I actually want to ask you about a stock real quick and ask the chat about a stock. Why are we not more seriously looking on this SaaS sell-off at Shopify?
I've never paid attention to Shopify. What's that?
130, dude, it's down from 180 to 137. I feel like out of all the companies that have been sold off because of SaaS, this has got to be the highest quality one, right? Like, they control commerce outside of Amazon. I mean, I feel like it's worth diving into these guys. They've always been expensive. I'm not saying they're not at 17 times sales, but they compound.
I would say Shopify has less competition than ServiceNow does, so it's definitely more interesting than ServiceNow to me.
Yeah, and this is the cheapest it's been since August. I mean, you have not been able to get these prices for a while on Shopify. I don't know. This one piqued my interest today. I was just thinking about it. I was like, dude, I've always wanted to own Shopify, and I'm like, this is a 10-year hold type of company.
All right, I'll look into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it as well. Visa next week. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. The last time I looked at Visa, the numbers weren't jumping off the screen that it was a buy. So it's a great company. I don't know. Probably do okay. I don't think it's more exciting than some of the tech names.
AT&T.
You know, that's interesting because it's fallen off. It was almost 30 at one point, and it's back down to like 23 something. So
didn't you in the stock draft say AT&T would outperform Apple? Not stock draft, in the NCAA competition we had.
I think that I probably did. Definitely not during the stock draft, but in the NCAA thing, yeah, that's something I think I said.
I mean, if it outperforms Apple this year, bro, that would be incredible.
We'll see.
Okay, last two. Western Digital, SanDisk, like, you think the memory names fall off, or hold on?
I mean, they've run so much. You know what the crazy part is? We looked at it last night. Look at Micron's PE. It's up so much, but their earnings have gone up so much that it's just inexpensive. So I don't know.
You know, it reminds me of NVIDIA, to be honest, where it's up a lot, but the earnings.
Yeah, but was NVIDIA that disrespected? Micron was a disrespected company for a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so we're going to see if memory can continue to pull off what it's pulling
It may
off.
be able to. It may be able to keep going.
Yeah. All right, Steve, thank you for joining. I'm putting Steve's YouTube in the chat. I think he'll be live in like an hour, so people can...
Yeah, we'll be live at 6:30.
Okay, cool. So I'm putting Steve's YouTube right there in the chat. People can follow him there, and he'll be live in about an hour. All right, Steve, thanks for being on.
Mick, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, the earbud fell out of my ear. I had to drop something off.
All right, cool.
All right.
We'll talk later.
You have a good night, and anybody who wants to join Matt and I for some silliness, we'll be on in about an hour.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Steve.
All right, later.
Later. All right, big tech earnings next week. It's going to be exciting. I think I agree with Steve on most of his analysis. If we don't see a big tech earnings pump from these depressed levels, especially Microsoft and Meta, I don't know, dude. Not going to be good for the S&P. But if we keep seeing the small caps run, even though the large caps might continue to sell off, if they do, it would just be an incredible rotation that would be witnessing. Now, again, last year we had the same dynamic. We started our collapse of the market in February. again, I keep wondering what is the catalyst for that to happen. I know people think about Iran and geopolitical stuff and war, and maybe that becomes a catalyst again, but I don't know if it's a Liberation Day type of situation that could play out. AMD is not next week. AMD is the week after next week. So the week after next week is when we have a lot of other names. That's when we have Palantir, Disney, AMD, SMCI are on February 3rd. We have Snappy Chat, Reddit, MicroStrategy, Amazon, Google, Peloton, Hershey's, Estee Lauder, Uber, Lilly, Novo, CleanSpark, Fortinet, Roblox, Iren, Red Cat, Enphase. Yeah, so we have a lot of those names after this week. So the next 2 weeks are going to be pretty heavy for earnings. Should be fun. Mid, have you thought about buying more Zeta? I have a full position. I'm in Zeta. I'm in pretty heavy, dude. I'm in Zeta. I like it. I'm in heavy. I think it'll do well. I think after earnings, it'll do really well. And so, yeah, like it would have to go to like the 18 level to get me really excited to buy more. But I'm in. So I think, when does Zeta have earnings? I don't know when, but I think it's like mid-February. That's when we're going to look at it. No, they didn't release it yet. They had this like town hall yesterday. Some good clips out of that. But I don't have it yet, the actual date. Yeah, I watched the Athena demo video yesterday. It was really good. It's really good. I don't know, dude. I know people argue they don't have the biggest moat or whatever. I just think there's really good execution here. I think this name is gonna. I don't know. I just haven't felt as confident in a name having this much undervaluation relative to their growth in a while. And either it's undervalued for some big reason, and that's why it's not getting the love, although it is doing relatively okay this year, or it's just waiting for that breakout quarter. Also, the volume has doubled. This thing barely used to trade a couple million shares. Now it's doing like 8 million a day. So you have buyers. You have like real money, potentially institutional money coming in. And a lot of institutions can't buy it because it's not profitable. They deliver a profit. I think we see this one go up. Yeah, well, the thing about Grab is, again, Grab still has a lot of shares outstanding. Zeta does not. So although I think Grab is undervalued, Zeta is like, I think, significantly undervalued compared to Grab based on the price to sales multiple and based on the forward PE growth. Also based on the fact that there's not a lot of shares outstanding. So the free float is 219 million shares. Like if they have a good quarter, this thing's going up. Like buyers are coming in. But they've got to have a hell of a quarter. And so that's what I think we have to really see. Why did Nebius go down today? I have no idea, bro. I have no freaking clue why Nebius went down. 2.4. Iren was up. The other one was in. Yeah, I wouldn't say Zeta is a mini Palantir. I just think the stock is cheap. I think it can go higher. I think the stock is cheap, and I think it can go higher. I have 10,000. I have 10,000 shares of it. So I'm in for 10,000 shares. I think it can move. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it doesn't. But this was one of the only big SaaS positions. I wrote about it in the Substack in January. I said this was the SaaS position I'm taking outside of Palantir. Palantir I've had for a long time. This was the only newest SaaS I've seen that was actually undervalued enough to get excited. So now we got to see a move. Duolingo, a little green today. Yes. What do you think about Rigetti? Not a big quantum guy. But the quantum names have done well. I just don't know if I'd be buying them at these levels. Estee Lauder is a Temu Mako product that Buffett uses for live streaming. Dude, could you believe that with my name? Could you believe that would be my name, bro? Buffett Cookery. That's just weird, bro. That's freaking weird. Dude, oh man, I got to show you guys this. Someone made the freaking Someone made this freaking AI thing again today. This is becoming quite incredible what's happening here. But this morning, you guys said I look like a Best Buy employee. And well,
all right, let's get this giant TV loaded up. Gotta hurry, customers waiting. Whoa, stop! Oh, no! I'm in the back. All right, let's get this giant TV loaded up. Gotta hurry, customers waiting. Whoa, stop! Oh, no! I'm in the back. All right, let's get.
This is getting ridiculous, bro. It's like actually this AI shit is weird, bro. It's freaking weird. But there you go. Your boy is a Best Buy type of guy. That's what we got. That's what we've got. What about SoFi? I have over 10,000 shares of SoFi as well. I'm heavy on SoFi and Zeta. I think they can move this year. I'm in them. You just need SoFi to make a big move. Again, I'm late to the SoFi party. I was busy buying Robinhood for the past 3 years. I think this stock should be 40 by the end of the year, or at least close to it. Even at 35, I think it'll get there. So hopefully we'll see if we get there. He always does 10,000 shares. That's not true. Grab is a lot more than 10,000 shares. At Grab Bag, we move $1 on Grab. We moved 5 cents on Grab. That would be nice. That would be nice, but a little grabby grab. Grab right there, 458 after hours as well. We thought you hated. I never hated Noto, bro. I just didn't like his approach to retail versus Vlad. The fact that Tanner still hasn't interviewed Noto to me is crazy. I don't really love his communication style. I don't think he cares about the individual investor as much. And, you know, I trusted Vlad more than Noto. And I think that worked out when both of them were $5, $6. But Robinhood's valuation is aggressive now. And it is what it is. And that's okay. And the stuff they're doing, like the announcements they had today, are going to be good to get bigger accounts on the platform. But at the end of the day, I think the lowering of rate cuts is it's very bullish for SoFi and loan originations. It's good for Robinhood if we have increased trading volumes. But we've already had pretty aggressive increased trading volumes over the past 22 days. And Robinhood's flat, which is leading me to think that the street is really pegging it to crypto. SoFi just needs to beat analyst expectations and put up $1 of BPS. We do that, I think SoFi will do well. But they better not be conservative on the guide, bro. Like, they need to actually drop the hammer on the guidance and then beat that as well. But they can't do this. Like, that's the one thing about Zeta. Zeta is not really conservative on guidance, bro. They're like aggressive and they beat the aggressive nature of guidance. I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's not a lot of companies that can beat and raise like that, dude. Like, that's a hard thing to do, to put the pressure on yourself to do it. And what? They did 17 consecutive beat and raises. You think David Steinberg wants the 18th one to be the one where they miss? It's like, no way. They're going to beat and raise again. And of course, they want to say 18 consecutive quarters. We got to see if that actually is respected by the street. Noto would beat up Vlad. Dude, there's a picture of Vlad kickboxing. Vlad is strong, bro. Vlad is not a small guy. Yeah, this one's epic. I've seen like every picture of Vlad on the internet. I know that sounds crazy, but like, it's, dude, I don't think people understand in 2024 how deep I went into understanding the Robinhood story. Like, there are videos from 2013 of Vlad at Stanford that I have watched. I needed to know this guy would take the stock to $25. I needed it to happen. I took a very big bet. This was not stock. This was options, which means there was an expiry. I needed to know he was the guy to get us there. And so I stalked the guy. I researched as much as I could. I tried to understand everything. And have you really seen every picture of him? Dude, I've seen every picture. Like also because I was making so much content on Robinhood that like I needed a new picture of Vlad every other day. There's this really nice picture of Vlad. Where is this one? He looks like a model where he's like on the sofa. But like, I had to, bro. Yeah, look at this shit, bro. Tell me this is not like, can we just be objective? This is a hot ass picture. This is like, come on, bro. This is my company's market cap is 100 billion mother effers, and it was 6 billion a year and a half ago. I mean, come on, bro. It is what it is. He did the thing. He did the thing that he needed to do. By the way, I finally, after 2 years, got the figure update on my phone. I've been waiting for years to see this, and we officially got it. 25 to 250. So we are officially in a 10x on figure, 25 to 250. I literally got it today. Derek called me. He was like, check your app. I was like, bro, this stupid thing hasn't updated for 2 years. And they finally updated it today. So we're at 25 to 250 on figure and 10 to 125 on Eptronic. And legit, I think we hold these for the next 10 years. Zero intention to sell. We need Elon to pump. Now, these two things could go to zero if Elon just swipes if Elon, I don't think they'll go to zero, but if Elon literally takes 99.9% of market share with Optimus, which is not that crazy to imagine he could do this, Tesla's going to get all the value. But if Elon gets like 75% and leaves a little bit of crumbs for Eptronic and Figure, those guys could go public. It's the robot company, not the loan company. The loan company is already public. The robot one is still private. But those are the two private investments we have. You know, I don't think I ever told this story. I met someone at the Miami meetup who was listening to me the day that Derek came on the show in February of 2024 to talk about the Figure investment. And it was my first private investment ever. So Derek came on the show. He called in, talked about it. There was a guy listening. I don't know if he's here in the chat again today. And he had a connect to a private SPV, special purpose vehicle, that you had to use to get into the round of the same Series B. I think it was a $2 billion round. And his guy had offered him Figure. And he said no, because he was like, stupid robot company. Like, why would I? But then he heard Derek come on the show that day, and he put like 500 grand after listening to Derek into Figure. And that has obviously done pretty damn well. So it's kind of crazy because that one day I met him in Miami. He told me the story. And he was like, literally, and Derek was in Miami too. So it was cool for him to hear the story. Literally him listening to that episode in the morning. We're coming on the 2-year anniversary of it, February 24th or February 2024. That's what got him to put some money into it. The Pursuit of Purpose podcast. That sounds like a self-help thing. I don't know if that's the name. The Pursuit of Purpose. Vlad's mother will name a Mitz kid. Oh my gosh. Guys, if I was named Buthick, bro, I don't know, bro. I needed a minute. I needed that name to help me get through life. Like that name versus Buthick would have been wild. What about Just the Pursuit? No. I'm sorry I'm being such a stickler about this, but it's not like you guys have bad names. AI has bad names. Steve has bad names. I have bad names. Your guys' names have not been that compelling. Like, I really have not felt a name that sticks at all. Do you think Matt Money should sell some of his Rocket Lab? No. Dude, I don't know why these guys keep having these debates on these streams. He got in at $4. What are we talking about? Why should he sell it? Now, if he wants to diversify and whatever, that's up to Matt. But like, if you got in something at $4 and it's at 90 with all the catalysts, and it's not a meme stock. It's like there's a real thesis behind Rocket Lab, even though there's a aggressive multiple on it. Okay, let's say it goes back to 50. He's going to buy more. What, we think it's never going to get back to 90 again? Even if it takes a couple of years. Okay, so what? Because then he has if he sells at 90, he has to figure out what to do with the money versus letting the compounding continue to happen, given he bought it at $4 freaking. I don't understand why people are saying he should take profits here. If anything, he can sell some covered calls and, get some, unless you think Rocket Lab's going back to like 20, 30 bucks. It's like, okay, that's a pretty aggressive drawdown. Like, yeah, I understand not wanting to experience that. I don't think he bought those shares on margin, so it's not like he has to pay back the brokerage, anything. Like, I've been saying this about Tesla too. Like, if you have Tesla cheap, like you sit back, you just let the potential of it manifest. Yeah, you have to pay taxes on that shit too. And I also don't think Matt needs the money. Like, I think he's doing okay. So Enphase went from 300 to 30. Okay, but Enphase went through a solar cycle downturn with the Trump administration that cared about gas prices, not solar. Biden cared a lot about solar. There were a lot more subsidies. Rocket Lab is entering into the space race. There's not that many competitors besides them, Blue Origin and SpaceX, and Rocket Lab has already proven how well they're able to do outside of SpaceX. There's a cult following, which means people, when Rocket Lab gets to 100, you don't think more people are going to buy into that? Like, everyone's going to want to get exposure. And then when SpaceX IPOs, like, what if it normalizes around 80 to 100, even if it goes from 150 to 100 on the downturn after the SpaceX IPO, just based on the fact that that would be the dip if it falls from 100 to 80 or something, or 150 to 80. Golden Dome, that's a catalyst. Like, I think he should hold on to that for like the next 15 years. It's not easy to find stocks that are cheap and let them. 4 to 90 is no joke, bro. Like, we saw that with Palantir from 6 to 200, Hood from 7 to 150. Like, it's not easy for that to happen. You really got to find a name that's so different, so special, so exciting, has such good leadership, can continue to push the bar forward. Like, if you sell it, all right, where are you going to put it? It's going to have that same type of compound. Siege, thanks for the $20. Ontological alpha. I like the word ontological and ontology. I don't know if it would fit in a podcast format, but I do like the word. Call it get rich. See, but the podcast is not about money. It's not a money podcast. I want it to live beyond the concept of money in and of itself. It's about markets. It's about business. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily just purely money. The Gleeful Giggle podcast. I don't know if Steve's going to like that one. Mo Money, More Conviction. The Mo Money Pod. The No Money Pod. I like Currently Right Now, but again, I don't think... Like, I get it, the time is Currently Right Now, but I don't know if that hits. I'm definitely overthinking it, but I think I'll figure it out by Sunday. I think I'll figure it out. I will find a way to figure this shit out. All right, what else do we got? Are those all the major headlines? A lot of you guys have reached out about Singapore, so it's good to know. I'm excited for it. So I will have more details in a week. LA, I'll probably have details next week. New York, we are getting very close to officially being fully booked for New York. Again, I'll put the link in the chat. I don't think the storm should affect it next week. I think it might not be the best in Canada next week, but in New York, New Jersey, I think we'll be okay. So thankfully, it's not this week, but next week, we're going to see what happens. Singapore, likely April. Likely April. So New York, LA, April. Oh, here's a question for you guys. So NVIDIA reached out and they said, do you want to come to GTC in San Diego? But it would be the week before the LA meetup, which is March 28th. You think we should go to California twice? I feel like that's a lot of traveling, bro. Going to California just for GTC, coming all the way back, and then going back to LA for the meetup. But it's GTC. Like, I wish they did it in DC this time. It would be so much easier to get there. Stay for a week. Okay, but staying in California for a week, bro. First of all, that's expensive, staying there for a week. Second of all, it's like, unless I can get a lot of business done, maybe get some podcasts, some meetings for that week, it's not going to be worth it staying there for a week. It would make more sense than going back and forth. Like, but I do want to see GTC. Like, that would be pretty freaking cool to see it. Compounding interest. I don't know if that's a good name either. Oh yeah, it's San Jose. No, is it San Jose? Hold on. Where's their headquarters? Their headquarters is in freaking, oh yeah, it is San Jose. You're right. March 16th to March 19th. Yeah, March 16th to March 19th. What are they going to introduce, though? They already talked about Vera Rubin. What exactly, like, I wonder what's like the next big thing they're going to talk about. Yeah, we got to see, bro. Maybe we can get some real good podcasts here. Not just with NVIDIA executives, but with other people in California. Stay there for a week. Oh yeah, Jason is near there. That would be good. I get to see Jason. I haven't seen him in a year. That would be nice. Jason rented a Cybertruck when I went to see him last time, and I got to drive it. And I was like, this is too big, bro. There's no need to have this big of a car, but it felt amazing. It's like, damn. It's like, got a freaking Cybertruck, dude. Feels cool. Raj says, I'll be at GTC. Yeah, I'm sure a bunch of you will be there. It'll be fun. I've never been to a GTC. I think it'd be really cool. It's just March 28th for LA is like the best date for the meetup. And it happens to be in the same state. So it's like, do we just stay there or go back and forth? Leza, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Shem, the unknown podcast. At this point, that's what it might have to end up being called. Phoebo, thanks for the super chat. Clearly the culture is not crazy. The wisdom of the elders. Go grandma. You know, I don't think the rule about the grandma picking the name is necessarily crazy. Like, I think there's like some respect you can offer to the concept of the rule. But I also think, you know, if you're the mom, like you kind of, you know, you're the one popping out the kid. You kind of want to have a say in their name. Like, I feel like that's not crazy to be like, hey, I want to name my kid. I don't want my mother-in-law to name him. So I don't know. I just feel like it's a little tough for a mom to have to stomach that she can't name her kid. But it worked out, dude. It really worked out. Patrick Kukreja would be wild. Amit is what works. Also, I don't have a middle name. Does everyone here have a middle name? Like, why are people surprised when I say I don't have a middle name? I don't think everyone needs to have a middle name. Like, some people just have two names. I didn't know you have to have a middle name or something. Because I absolutely do not have a middle name. If I do, I don't know what the hell it is. I've never seen it. You have two middle names? Have a really bad one. I think, yeah, most people do apparently, but I didn't even know a middle name is a thing. Like, there's a middle, like, I don't know. I've never had it. Gaines Anatomy, this is actually the best thing ever. That's not going to be the name, but it's the best thing ever. Basent says Trump can announce his Federal Reserve chair pick as soon as next week. How did Rick Reeder get to the top of the Fed chair? Like, do people even, I mean, I know Rick Reeder relatively well because I've listened to him a lot, but dude, this was supposed to be Warsh's thing after Hassett ended up likely not being the guy. Even Waller, I thought, would be at. Rick Reeder, BlackRock CIO, managed $2.6 trillion of fixed income, $8 million on Polymarket. Dude, $246 million is betting on this shit. Wow. Rick Reeder. I mean, seeing that guy as the Fed chair would be pretty incredible. By the way, we have to get used to him. These are 6-year terms. So whoever's the Fed chair, we are going to be literally analyzing every syllable that comes out of their mouth for the next 6 years. How many times a year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, 8 times a year, 8 FOMC meetings a year, and probably multiple podcasts and interviews and all this stuff. We're going to be analyzing them for the next 6 years. So it actually is really important. Like, we're going to have to get used to this guy, whoever it is. Rick Reeder, bro. It's crazy. How about Breaking Bread? Someone suggested that last week. I don't like it. I think it's a play on Breaking Bad, and I feel like it's copying Breaking Bad, which I don't like. I'm going to miss Powell, too. Powell gets a lot of shit, but I'm going to miss Mr. J. Powell. Oh, my gosh. We got to think of this name. We got to think of this freaking name. I'm going to figure it out this weekend. All right. I think that's it. I hope everyone stays safe. This is going to be apparently the worst storm we've had ever. If I'm not here for the Sunday futures, it's because the power went out. So I will try to be here if the energy is good. Big tech earnings next week, coming on to the end of January. Oh, is that today? Bro, I can't believe this guy's doing it, but he's doing it. The Alex Honnold guy is climbing a skyscraper in Taiwan live on Netflix at 8 p.m. today. That's crazy. With no harness. Like, that's crazy. He's probably going to pull it off too. Because he's pulled off all the other ones. If you see some of his interviews, it's pretty incredible. It's pretty freaking incredible. For those that don't know him, he's like a famous climber, but he never uses a harness. And he's climbed multiple mountains. Like, dude, this is what the guy did. Like, we're talking about life or death. His logic is like, it's very low risk, but the risk is death. But it is very low risk based on how he conceptualizes the concept of the climb itself.
Happen. It will be the biggest urban free solo climb ever.
So walk me through the conversations with Netflix, because this is obviously a high stakes production for you. It's what you do. I mean, climbing a building is different, but I would imagine that Netflix had a lot of questions for you.
Honestly, I've been incredibly well insulated from all of the sort of legal and network side and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's interesting because I think people look at the whole project and they're like, oh, it seems risky, but you're kind of like, or it seems dangerous or whatever. But I look at it as kind of like, it's not really that much different than what I do in day-to-day life as a professional rock climber. It's just like, this is kind of normal. You go out and you climb things that are inspiring and you have a good time, you have adventures. And then it's interesting because even from a live sports perspective or something like a live TV perspective, I'm like, it's not that different than watching, like live football or MMA or other things like that. It seems more dramatic because the consequences are so much higher, but the risk, the actual likelihood of having an injury are, I would say, I would say close to zero, like basically zero. I feel like it's going to be fine. Whereas other sports, like people are going to get hurt for sure. Mm-hmm. They're just probably not going to die. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of a weird, it's like, it's funny that people see the high consequence and they're like, that seems crazy. But you're kind of like, well, it's very low risk though. Whereas other things that you watch all the time are incredibly high risk. Like people are getting hurt nonstop. Like watch an NFL game, at least 2 people are going to get like one person's going to have a career-ending injury during the game. And you're sort of like, that's a crazy, that's like watching gladiators out fighting for your entertainment. Like, that's kind of crazy.
To hear you say it's very
that's his logic. He's like, all right, so you're watching an NFL game. People will get injured. The risk of injury is like very high. In this situation, the risk to him is near zero, but the consequence is death. So it's like very low risk, high reward for him, or very low probability of risk, high reward, but if the risk does happen, you die. Whereas in the NFL, very high probability of risk, but if you get hurt, you don't die. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible, and I'm wishing him the best. And that'll be on Netflix, so that'll definitely, I think, get a bunch of people that care to see what happens. So basically, like buying BM&R. Oh my gosh. He won't even know if he falls because he'll be dead. Yeah, but the confidence in him it's basically like what I do when I put out jokes in the morning. It's like low risk that no one's gonna laugh because they're funny. But if the risk does happen, then no one laughs, right? Then it's just a horrible joke. But the reward on the low probability of the risk of people not laughing is that you get a lot of laughter, which is really good. And I take that risk every day because, I have to embrace it as a yapper. So for him, he's just like, dude, this is very low chance that I'm going to die. And if I pull it off, it's super high reward. It's just if I happen to not pull it off, I end up dying. And so I don't, it's like, yeah, it's bad if it fails, but he doesn't think he's going to fail. It's kind of just like, okay, if you're buying a call option, don't be wrong. If you're wrong, you lose all your money. So don't be wrong. And I can relate with my jokes. I really can. I am at risk of dying from laughter when watching a mitt. That's the risk I take. That's not horrible. Siege, I'm sorry. He says, name it. I'll never watch Elysium, but I'll watch the RIP podcast. First of all, I didn't finish the RIP, okay? Second of all, every week I forget that I need to watch Elysium. I will do it. I'll try to do it this weekend. I will actually try to remember to watch this freaking movie. What do you think about the dollar weakening? I think Trump wants a weak dollar. I don't think look, this thing can't get back to like 92, 93, but if it stays around 95, 97, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It also shouldn't go up to 115, which is where it was at before Trump got elected. So look, a weak dollar is not the worst for trade. It's obviously good for gold and silver. But the Trump administration is not going to try to pump the dollar because they're okay with it being at these levels. We've been here since you weren't even funny, so you can send it. The humor has evolved. Hopefully. It's your average on SoFi, 27. 27 on SoFi. All right, that's it, guys. I will be back on Sunday Futures. Please stay safe if you're going to be affected by the snowstorm. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you again every single day for joining morning and close. Again, the same passion I've had for the past 3 years of doing this, I continue to have every single day. And I hate when we miss the show like we did on Wednesday, but I do think it will be very worth it. Like, I think you guys really will appreciate some new stuff that's coming out. And yeah, we're going to keep doing what we got to do, keep pushing things forward. We'll be here every single day. We'll be back Sunday, then on Monday. So far, markets are relatively decent this year. The bulls have been in control. I mean, I know the large caps are not going crazy, but if you've had your own little bucket of different things, different sectors that are working out, portfolios are stable. The fact that the markets are not necessarily down heavy is also a good thing. You're getting to protect the gains. And now we just got to see if we can keep this going forward towards the end of the year. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Love you all. Have a great, great weekend. I will see you guys Sunday night, and we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Bye, everyone.